Hi, Amascut here with my thoughts on the newly released quest Children of Ma, which came out on November 21st. This quest is the most recent quest in the Sliske storyline, as well as a continuation of the stories set out in Fate of the Gods, Ritual of the Mahjarrat, really the Mahjarrat, Saren, and Zeros stories that have been a pretty key part of RuneScape for a very long time. This quest is also the highest leveled quest in the game right now, though, as far as we're aware, it'll be beaten by Sliske's Endgame next month. However, it actually contains no skill requirements, which I thought was kind of, I guess, surprising and interesting, especially after playing the quest. I feel like it could have bumped agility up a level or two. Maybe divination as well, but uh, instead it just features several extremely high tier quests as requirements. Well, two actually. Dishonor. Well, so it has the Light Within on it. It has Dishonor Among Thieves to pick up a couple of requirements the Light Within was missing, and it also requires the mini quest Koshay's Troubles, which doesn't really seem that significant until you realize that Koshay's Troubles requires both Blood Runs Deep and Ritual of the Mahjarrat, which means no other quest has required this many quests to do it since Ritual of the Mahjarrat. It's very nice that Ritual of the Mahjarrat is finally a requirement on a 6th age quest as well, and it feels like it finally took the opportunity to tie Ritual of the Mahjarrat and the whole Mahjarrat questline together into this one big quest. It's also a very, very quality quest. Those who pay attention to what I say about quests, the like 6 of you who follow quests in the making on any regularity, know that I am very mixed about the Watch's quest development cycle. I think they are fantastic at creating bosses, really great with mechanics and interesting designs like that. But I think that their quest design has been very hit or miss. While quests like Missing Presumed Death have been spectacular and does a great job of dealing with and representing a number of varied characters in a unique setting, quests like Beneath Cursed Tides tried and failed to create new and interesting characters. It failed to really live up to any sort of expectations that anybody could have had about Tutorial Island, and forced a lot of memes and jokes in that felt completely out of place. I was very grateful to discover that Children of Ma was more along the lines of Missing Presumed Death and Dishonor Among Thieves, with unique gameplay mechanics that really made an effort to be something interesting, varied character design with unique and interesting dialogue and lore, and just a really exciting, intense atmosphere throughout, as well as huge impact stories with heavy emotional weight, and some pretty solid gameplay to boot. Now, I while I really enjoyed this quest, I do feel like it did have some issues. First of all, though, let's go ahead and go over what the quest contained and what I thought about it. So, the quest opens by talking to Karshe under Relica, and he talks about how him and all other Mahjarrat are being drained rapidly of their power, and they have no idea why. But they believe that to solve it, they need to have another ritual of rejuvenation, and that Karshe is up for sacrifice since he is the neutral party between the two. As everybody kind of guessed, actually, everybody kind of assumed that since Karshe was this in the middle neutral party, both parties would just be like, well, fuck it, we'll sacrifice him. And that's exactly what they were planning to do. He asks us for help since we have been of assistance to him in the past, and we then go ahead and say sure. So we head to the ritual site, and we get to flashback to Zamorak's betrayal of Zeros through some memories that we find in the empty throne room, which has been out for, 2 weeks? The pre-release event with skilling and lore journals that are awesome, by the way. Check those out. Please go check those out. They're great. Really, really well written. Kudos to whoever did those. I don't think I talked about them. So, yeah, read those. The Empty Throne Room has some fantastic lore and some good skilling opportunities for people around the level that it is designed for. High-level players won't get a lot out of it, but that's kind of the point. Anyway, back to Children of Ma. You get just a really, really it was really just lore-shatteringly interesting. Encounter between Zeros and Zamorak during the betrayal. You roam the throne room as Karshe and really get to experience the tenseness of the moments leading up to Zamorak's betrayal and the plans that he's placed. and it was really exciting to get to see this firsthand. The throne room looks beautiful. Karshai's dialogue with others was very interesting and offered a lot of insight into Zeros' empire and Sentistan as a whole. I think the most interesting lore for me was probably sitting and just talking with Pernix. He was very suspicious, but I liked the way that he seemed very terse and uninterested in conversation and just wanted to get to the facts and the interesting things. Zebub was also fairly interesting, as was the Duke. And even talking to Sliske was pretty entertaining. Interestingly, speaking of Sliske, in fact, in this flashback, that's the only time we see Sliske during this quest. He never shows up on Freneske, not with any of the other Mahjarrat, and I was fairly surprised by that. Anyway, the memory section was really, really cool, and it was really great to be able to see this betrayal for ourselves and really see all these characters together in one place. After that, we head to Freneske because Zeros and Zamorak both appear and speak to the Mahjarrat, causing some really great dialogue kind of quibbling between the two factions of Mahjarrat and their discussion of really what they should do for the future of their race rather than just for their own well-being. So eventually they do decide, yes, we're going to head to Freneske. Zemoreagle kidnaps Karshai, who was originally trying to help us, and we're kind of forced to find our own way to this strange ritual marker that Ma has created, piercing through the abyss and draining the Mahjarrat and Zeros and Zamorak and Saren and probably Sliske's energy too. Really, she's awoken fully and has discovered that much of her power has been drained and siphoned away, and she's terrified and has decided, oh, well, I'm just going to reach out and steal back my power that I've accidentally siphoned out into the world. And that's what's causing the Mahjarrat to need another ritual, and that's why we're here. So we go through a couple mediocre puzzles. The first one, we kind of lava surfboard, and it's fairly unresponsive, which really is my biggest complaint with it. I think it was creative and cool, and the design of it was nice, but it's on, with the tick system especially, it was hard to play and not particularly enjoyable. Like, you'd see an obstacle coming up and click your button, and it would take several ticks for your character to even move over, which means you run the risk of hitting things even though you've made the effort to avoid things. The second puzzle involved the Muspa. There are several rocks blocking your path, and you have to fight the Muspa that are spawning due to Ma being in a tantrum nightmare state. And eventually a more powerful version of the Muspa would spawn, charge up an adrenaline bar, and use a special attack that, if you're standing next to the rock when it uses the spec, would break the rock and allow you to continue. It's not really a combat section so much as it is an outlast section until the stronger Muspa spawn, and then you just have to bait out a really boring special. I did not like this section. I think it was poorly designed. I think it was very unclear. The rock was not very obvious. The Muspa special was not very impactful or interesting beyond the fact that it had an adrenaline bar that ticked up and did something. I feel like this section would have been much better augmented with some sort of Nihil-like fight where you're fighting these powerful Muspa with special attacks and really an actual boss fight to kind of hammer this quest home. Because for it being a Grandmaster quest with so many quest requirements and so much difficulty and high skill requirements from prereqs, this quest did not have any sort of difficulty to it at all. I rarely felt as if I was at risk, except for a few moments during the Muspa fight where I simply had not brought enough food and obviously was just taking too much damage from, I think, 3 or 4 Muspa attacking me while I wasn't really prepared. And obviously, they're not easy creatures to kill, but, well, they are once you have blood magic going. But I walked in there with ranged gear that wasn't particularly high. I was in Armadil. So I felt like for a quest that is this high tier and of this difficulty, I feel like it didn't give that difficulty. It gave the impact from the lore, no question. But I feel like the Watch, especially for all their boss design prowess, really could have taken an opportunity here to create a unique quest boss involving the Muspa that would have been a lot more interesting than what we ended up getting. On the plus side, though, during this section, we got 4 Death Stones, which are rocks that were placed with the Mahjarrat's gems in their forehead placed into the stone. And it turns out these gems are some kind of memory holder for the Mahjarrat, and we're able to read about each Mahjarrat's last moments before they died. They gave us hints about how to continue, as well as some really interesting little bits of story. And we met 4 new Mahjarrat through this. Obviously, they're dead, and we'll never see them again, but it was very interesting to read about the hazardous life on Fernesque in these brief moments. I loved this. I was really happy to see that included in the quest. Apparently, they weren't even required to progress in the quest, but are a requirement on the Master Quest Cape. But I didn't realize that. I thought we were supposed to use them as, the way to puzzle our way through this section. Anyway, after you beat the Muspa section, you go through another lava fall section, and then there's an actual giant lava fall, like giant cliff at the end, and Saren manages to appear and save your ass because we are the World Guardian and she can't use magic powers on us, but she manages to grab us before we go smashing into the lava and just die. So she has a little conversation with us, and we learn kind of about what Zeros is planning. He's trying to sacrifice Ma so that the Mahjarrat can be fully rejuvenated, and he can also gain some power off of it. And she is terrified and concerned, both for Ma's well-being and for what this means for the future. We go ahead and continue on, and we find all of the Mahjarrat, as well as Zeros, and standing in front of this giant pillar of energy and light, which is Ma's ritual marker that she's created in her dreams. After some conversation, including Zemmereagle insisting that Karshai be sacrificed, because, damn the fact we're standing in front of a giant freaking ritual marker and Zeros plans to kill Ma, Karshai should probably go. I thought that was hilarious. It was a really good characterization for Zemmereagle. Loved it. Then Zamorak appears. There is a really amazing cutscene with Zeros and Zamorak fighting. Some really exciting little moments, beams of light flying around, and Zamorak then, as he believes he's going to die, actually preparing to sacrifice his energy to the Mahjarrat, which gave Zamorak yet another really, really great character moment that continues to show him as, while he is a god of chaos and potentially evil, and many of his followers are really evil, he cares more for the well-being of his people and his followers and his race than he does for himself when necessary. And it was some wonderful, wonderful writing and characterization. Absolutely fantastic work on that. I'm no Zamorak supporter by any stretch of the imagination, mostly because of his followers and their giant douches, but I've really, really been impressed with the way that quests involving Zamorak recently have shown him in a very different light to what one might have expected from him. And it's doing so in a way that continues to show him is a god that will support evil if necessary, but they've given him a very heavy layer of nuance that adds a lot to his character. I really both love and appreciate that. However, Zeros and Zamorak stop fighting because Zeros does not want to make Zamorak a martyr, and they come to a bargain. Basically, the two of them agree to a demonic pact called the Vinculum Juris, which they have to uphold or they will be completely unmade. And Zamorak basically, confirms that all of the Mahjarrat will live and everything will be okay, and Zeros gets to call on one favor from Zamorak in the future. And the way that favor will be known is Zeros will call him his Legatus Maximus, which was Zamorak's old title in Zeros' army. This was another very high-impact, very emotional, and very interesting moment that sets up some really exciting potential for Endgame coming next month. And did a really good job of using, the past as a way to fuel the current events. At this point, they begin the ritual, and Ma begins to wake. You're asked to go up top to, climb up to where Ma is clinging desperately to a cliffside, and find that Saren is there. Saren sends you into Ma's dreams, which is probably my favorite puzzle segment of this quest, and actually kind of challenging too, I might add. And you go through the dreams and the nightmares that she's having, and fend off these waves of shadow using light stones to kind of block this darkness from corrupting Ma even further and causing more tantrums and nightmares. As well as a section where you're running through swarms of Ma's nightmares and some really creepy sequences. And running from patches of light to patches of light to kind of dig deeper into her psyche. You get a very interesting, dive through Ma's nightmares and the things she's scared of, which includes the Mahjarrat and includes Zeros and Saren. And you also get a very, very terrifying and interesting reveal that Ma's corruption and her stillbornness may not have been a fluke, but actually may have been caused by Wen, one of the other elder gods. What that means for the future, I have no idea. But we know that Wen is an elder god that is either so big that she stretches under both Ice Mountain and White Wolf Mountain, or is split in two. And the idea that Wen has corrupted Ma in some way, and potentially had the ability to split herself in two because she stole energy from Ma, is very unique, and it makes me wonder why, how this happened, and what it could mean for the Elder God story as a whole. Anyway, after you finish these puzzles, you exit Ma's dreams, and Zeros' ritual finishes. Ma is broken and corrupted and screaming in agony, and Saren kills Ma. Or at least as much as you can kill an Elder God. She puts her out of pain and puts her out of her misery in a really emotional sequence, with Saren having to finally put down that mother that she's so protective of. Put her down. Furthermore, just to go with the reveals and the craziness and the excitement, when Saren appears next to Zeros and Zamorak to discuss, the Mahjarrat actually recognize Saren's power as Ma's, and there was a reveal that wasn't new to us as a player, but was new to the Mahjarrat, that Saren had actually been disguising herself as Ma to cause the rituals of rejuvenation, and the Mahjarrat blame her for this. It was very interesting seeing Saren's reaction and her horror at this, because, as she said, she only meant to help, and really, without those rituals, the Mahjarrat would not have been alive, but still, having to kill their allies and their friends and their lovers, obviously, that caused a lot of pain and horror. After this, Saren leaves, with a rift between her and Zeros ever increasing, and the Mahjarrat, discuss their plans for the future. You get a moment, more than a moment, as long as you like, to stay here and chat with each of the Mahjarrat. Some very interesting information is revealed, such as Haziel was actually from a different tribe of the Dreams of Ma called the Mahjarrat, and went through a process to join the Mahjarrat because he believed that they would survive, and lo and behold, they have. We get some more information from Bilrak about the Namenheim project and, what his goals for that really were. Some very, very hype-worthy teasers about where the Floor 61 quest could go. I'm really hoping we get that. I really want that quest. Some information from Akthanakos about him being a derp. Some discussion from Wahi, kind of questioning why he's left out of the loop, which I was glad to see acknowledged, since he was completely ignored by Zeros in Fate of the Gods. Azanadra being, fanatical as ever, Zemarigal being a dick as ever. Some information about the Mahjarrat crystals in their foreheads, or the Mahjarrat gems, and Karshai deciding that he has plans to probably leave Gielinor because he does not feel like he belongs on either side, and now that he doesn't have to worry about a ritual or playing those politics anymore, he feels like he's finally free. That was another really great touch, and I feel like especially this dialogue here really summed up what each character was and still is for the future of the story, since apparently they plan to use the Mahjarrat in their own quest pillar, the Mahjarrat pillar, in the future. And it was just a really great way to leave each character at the end of this quest in a place that is prepared to move off into the future. Very, very well done dialogue. Very, very well done characterization here. Even throughout the whole quest, every time somebody spoke, it really felt as if they had, their backstory and their character as a part of them, and it was all taken into account. I was really, really impressed by that. After this, you talk to Zeros, And he goes through, his feelings in the aftermath, and then gives you your reward. The rewards are pretty solid here. You get 100k agility and divination XP. You get a Karshai's Journal, which is 300k XP, or and a skill of 75, or 400k if you did it during the early bird time, which is still active, so go do this quest. Then you get a Tiny Karshai Pet, Legatus Maximus Armor, which is Zamorak's pre-ascension armor, the Shard of Ma, which provides protection from mobs in God Wars Dungeon 2, and allows your kill streaks to go up to 400% rather than 300. There's new Slayer monsters called Nightmares, which are the Nightmares from Ma. And they drop a new set of gloves, conveniently called the Nightmare Gauntlets, which are super powerful, crazy good. Get these if you can. They're tier 85 power gloves for ranged, which, is good as is because they don't degrade to dust, which means they're the strongest power armors power gloves that don't degrade to dust for ranged. But their effect allows you to move while charging up and using the snipe ability, and also gives the ability 25% extra accuracy, which means it will almost always hit, and it's a super hard-hitting basic ability. This opens up so much freedom for range's basic rotation, with snipe no longer being, at risk of somebody running out of the way. Super, super great. I would honestly happily swap these out from the Dominion Tower gloves that I usually use. They're, just that effect alone makes them better than Ascension grips. Great set of gloves. Yeah, these are powerful as hell. Additionally, there's new memories and Gothixian caches giving 4 points for conversion. Not really anything to talk about. It's Guthix caches. You're going to get your points no matter what. The music in this quest is incredible. Beautiful as always. Mudbond is spectacular as always. The whole music team. I don't think I've ever had a bad thing to say about the music team, and they continue to succeed here. I was really, really happy with pretty much everything. Overall, I really consider this quest, in the 8 to 9 out of 10 range, or a high 80. Like, I'd probably, if I was arbitrarily giving it a grade, I'd call it an 87 out of 100. My biggest complaints involved some weak gameplay and some really unused potential for characters and some of their bigger moments. Some characters felt underused, with so many characters at play in this quest, especially with the Mahjarrat alone, not even going into the flashbacks. A lot of the characters felt like they didn't really have anything to do except for stand around and provide some dialogue. I really wish that could have been improved. Dishonor Among Thieves was a very perfect example of how to have a broad cast of characters and actually use every single one of them in an impactful way. I don't think this quest succeeded at doing that quite as well, but for the characters it did use, they were used very well. So Karshai, Zemmerregal, Saren, Zeros, Zamorak, even as Anadra got a couple moments, but I wish it could have been a little bigger, a little bit more. The puzzle at the end was great. I thought that was really cool and very unique, but the two puzzles earlier, super weak. The gameplay was not as good as it could have been. This quest, just like Fate of the Gods, had a much broader focus on the overall lore and the story than it did caring about super crazy unique gameplay. And I'm a little disappointed by the gameplay, though. Fate of the Gods, while being a lore-heavy quest, still had, the awesome lightning mechanics around Frenesque that left you freaking out and worried and always at this very frenetic pace. The door puzzle was cool. The Nihil fight was amazing. It had some very intense moments, and I feel like while Children of Ma was a great quest with some really wonderful lore, it didn't quite match up to the strengths of the original. Still, so many kudos to the watch. The writing was amazing. Amazing. I loved the puzzles in the throne room. I just wish that the Frenesque section had lived up to Fate of the Gods' Frenesque moments that were quite as strong. Overall, though, I really did enjoy this quest, and I look forward to more quests like this from the Watch, even though I know we're moving on to expansion, so I don't really think the Watch will exist in the form that they do. Still, the writers behind this quest especially, as I've said before, especially for Mod Ali, great things. Keep working like this. Don't fall into the traps that Beneath Cursed Tides fell into again, please. That quest was a disaster. That's really all I have to say about Children of Ma. I was expecting this to be, 10 minutes, and I'm almost hitting 30 minutes, but there was a lot to take in on this quest, a lot of lore to really go through. Zeros and Zamorak's, that fight and the betrayal, and the fact that much of the exchange took place in Zeros' mind palace of sorts. And the fact that Ma is dead. We can essentially kill elders. This is confirmed. The Mahjarrat are free from their ritual of rejuvenation curse. Zamorak might have gone up a tier, or gone down a tier, or stayed the same. Zeros is more powerful. Saren is more powerful. As Anadra even says that he feels like there is no limit to his power anymore, which may mean that he's on the cusp of ascendancy, or has and hasn't realized it yet. There's a lot to take in this quest, and it's going to have far-reaching effects, and I'm excited to explore them. I've been Amascut. This has been my thoughts on Children of Ma. Thank you for listening, and if you have any thoughts of your own, I would love to hear them in the comments below. Shout out again to Jagex, the Watch, everybody involved in this quest. Great stuff. If you liked this review video thoughts on thing, and want to see more, please hit that subscribe button. I do reactions for pretty much every major update of the game. I'm also nearly done with the first set of reviews of every quest in the game. They don't quite fit this format, which is just me rambling about my thoughts on the quest, but it's a little more structured. I have 18 of them written. I've recorded 10 of them, and I'm working on editing and expanding them a little bit. And those will be coming soon. We've got more rune secrets coming up. A lot of cool content, so make sure you stick around and check that out. Thanks so much for listening again, and I hope you enjoyed this quest as much as I did. Bye.